Are they going to be
Gentlemen and one lady, welcome to this regularly scheduled session of the Planning Commission. I will call the roll. I would like to alert everybody that it's a hybrid meeting tonight, which means that two of our members are in Florida, but will be participating by Zoom. What that means, among other things, is that when anybody speaks, formally on the record,
I'll do this for now, Frank. If so, say word recorded.
okay?
what was it?
I don't know. Just go ahead. Go ahead.
All right, that's Mr. Pline.
That was somebody accidentally unmuted themselves.
All right. when you speak, make sure that the microphone is on, because that's the only way that the people who are attending by Zoom can hear you. Okay? So we can slow down and just make sure that it runs right. I'm going to call the roll. Mr. Bellamy?
Here.
Mr. Cummings?
Here.
Ms. Butler?
Here.
Mr. Pline?
Present.
Mr. Riley is not present, and Mr. Sfakianudis is not present, and my name is Robert Waldman, and I am present. The agenda tonight consists of primarily one item, which is on the agenda. Later will be followed by a work session, which will also be broadcast and also be hybrid. I don't believe there'll be any changes to the agenda. We have no minutes, because those of you who are veterans can see that we don't have a clerk due to the new administration. So with no other business to perform, let's go to the first item on the agenda, which is an application for a building at 15 Ridgely Street in West Annapolis. We begin the evening with a presentation, first by the staff, and any additions or questions that we have about their report. And then we'll go to a presentation by the applicants. If there's any public testimony or written comment testimony which has been submitted, that'll also come into the record. And then the public hearing portion will be closed, and the commission will go into deliberations. So let's start off with the staff report. Everybody's received it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any comments that you would like to make, Ms. Burke? Mrs. Burke?
I don't have any comments. I mean, I could introduce the project, but I know that the applicant is going to do a thorough presentation of this. But and I'll just say, it is a major site design application to construct a new 3-story multi-tenant office building with a partially below-grade parking structure on the piece of property at the intersection of Ridgely and Giddings Avenue. And currently, there is just a parking lot on that property.
I have a question.
Yes?
Page 3 of your report, right below the midway, it talks about the project could better leverage its impervious coverage by implementing rooftop water collection practices or other methods of rainwater harvesting. What did you mean by that?
Well, this was Eric Lashinsky's comprehensive plan. He's just stating that because they're increasing their lot coverage, that these were other alternatives that could be explored to, because when you have a green roof, your building does not count as lot coverage.
If you have a green roof, what?
Your building doesn't count as lot coverage because it's green.
Right, so that it
So
does,
you get credit for reduced lot coverage.
okay.
So
Well,
that was a suggestion with the comprehensive plan review.
since he's here tonight, maybe we'll hear from him later. Okay, I have no further questions from the report.
I have no questions.
Okay, let's proceed. Applicant?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Alan Hyatt for the applicant, MRE1 LLC. I think you're familiar with this organization. They've done a lot of fine things in West Annapolis, and they've been in front of you on numerous occasions. Tonight, the plan is to have a 3-story building constructed at the corner of Ridgely and Giddings Avenue. It's currently used as a parking lot It's paved. There's some sparse shrubbery there. No stormwater management's being practiced. And we believe that this good-looking design will be a substantial asset to the community, and it will offer employment opportunities. Hopefully, people will walk to work because West Annapolis is a popular location, and there's folks that live there that may very well work there. Just a quick housekeeping matter. I know you don't have a clerk. We distributed a binder to you, and maybe one day we'll do this electronically exclusively, but you have hard copies. And I have one set for the record that I would like to, I'll hand over to you before I conclude, or at the conclusion. And within the package are 22 exhibits, I believe. Included in that are affidavits of posting and publication and notices that were sent, so we complied with the requirements of the code in order to proceed with this public hearing.
It's accepted.
Oh, sure. Tonight we have several people that will testify. You have all of the plans and the documents. We won't be redundant in terms of going through them, but we want to explain the features, the important features of the project, and certainly everybody's here to answer any questions that you might have about the project. We have, our engineering firm is Bowler, and we have Haley Carpenter that will be speaking. For Bowler, we have Nick Reese from Campion Ruby. They've done the landscape, the landscape plans for the site, and Andrew Fishback and Leo Wilson, who you're familiar with, to my left did the architectural work, and to my right is E.J. Rumpke. He'll say a few words on behalf of the owner, and that would be our presentation. Before I turn it over to Mr. Rumpke, I do want to mention that we were obligated under the code to pay for a traffic impact study that was conducted through the direction of the city. And that is included in your package. Not all of the exhibits to the study were included, but the conclusion and a description of what was studied is contained in there. And we had a acceptable conclusion from the traffic impact study with respect to the impact on traffic that this proposed building, which is proposed to be about 27,000 square feet, would generate. Ridgely Avenue, you should know, is a state road, a state highway, and we have applications pending before the State Highway Administration. They have to approve any access onto Ridgely and any improvements we make along Ridgely. We expect we will get them. I don't think we have them at this moment, but they're pending. There's really little that's controversial about that. And then, of course, as part of the approval process, we need adequacy of public facility certification. And I think, and Ms. Burke can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think all of the departments in the city have signed off with respect to approving this project for adequacy. And we just need the planning director to sign off at this point?
That's correct.
Okay, so I think the record should be kept open until you get the signed document from the planning director, because our code says you're not supposed to approve a site development plan without the approval of APF. So I would just call on Mr. Rumpke and just introduce yourself if you would. I know everybody here probably knows you, but go ahead and tell them who you are and how you're involved in this project.
Yeah, appreciate it, Alan. And thanks for everybody being here tonight. Some familiar faces have, like Alan said, have done a few projects in Annapolis, and specifically within West Annapolis. So Andrew just put up on the screen a map that highlights some of the buildings that we own in the area. And when I say we, I'm talking about MRE Capital, which is a family office in Annapolis that has an office at 706 Giddings Avenue, which is right next door to this proposed project. You know, in here we've built a couple of office buildings, built some townhomes. This is 106 Annapolis Street, which is a mixed-use project with a ground floor restaurant and apartments above it. This is 103 Annapolis Street, which we developed, which we actually sold in late last year to a residential realtor, so he'll be opening up in the springtime. This is an old PNC Bank that we converted into the Rutabaga juice bar. And then this is 100 Ridgely, which is 4 townhomes that are at the kind of corner of where we're at for this project. So you can directly see these from our proposed office development at 15 Ridgely. This is another one that we did. This is, people call this Chessie's. It's also kind of RAR Brewery. This is the old Mexican cafe in the neighborhood that we converted into this great spot. And then this is 706 Giddings. So this is the office building. If you're on Giddings Avenue looking at this building, to the left of here is our site for this proposed project. And then this is a little 4,000 square foot office building that we developed right on Rail Boulevard. And then Andrew just pulled up our site here. So again, this just kind of shows you where our parcel is in relation to the properties around it in the West Annapolis neighborhood. This is a view actually right from those townhomes that I was showing you. So just kind of shows you the existing conditions of the site today. This is a view from on the property, so you can see a little bit of the grade change that we're working with. And then this is in the back corner here as well. That just kind of shows you all the impervious pavement we have today. And again, just kind of highlighting some grade change that you'll see in some of the elevations that we have later on here. So, you know, happy to answer any questions about MRE, but I'm going to hand it off to the Bowler team to kind of get into some of the nitty-gritty details here.
Thanks, CJ.
All right. Yeah, Mr. Chairman, do you want to swear the witnesses in, or you don't do that? And then I would also point out that we do have the resumes of the witnesses. You do not want us to qualify them as experts either. Is that correct? I mean, you have their backgrounds contained in our package here, items tabs 16 through 19. But your tradition has been we don't qualify, or you don't qualify experts, right?
Exactly. And the reason is that testimony is to be taken for what it's worth. The fact that a person is sworn in as an expert doesn't necessarily make what they have to say worth anything more than what anybody else has to say. It's the value of what somebody has to say and not what their resume says.
Well, I would just proffer that these folks are experts in their fields, and they
Yes.
will address the areas of their expertise.
Highly qualified.
Okay, thank you. All right, and with that, I'll ask you to identify yourself for the record.
Absolutely. Good evening. I'm Haley Carpenter with Bowler Engineering.
And
Okay,
what was
is your
role-
microphone on? Little
Yes.
green light. Okay.
Yeah, make sure you speak into the mic. What was your role with respect to this project? What did you do?
I oversaw the development of the site plan and worked with a team of engineers and landscape architects to do so.
And were you also involved in the stormwater management?
Yes, that's inclusive of
Calculations
stormwater.
Okay, all right. Why don't we, you're familiar with the Annapolis City Code
Yes,
when it comes to requirements for stormwater, for example?
correct.
Okay. All right, why don't we take you to tab 8, I think it is. Yes. I'm going to show you a series of plans. Do you have them, Andrew? Are you able to pull these plans up? Okay. All right, we're starting with C-101, and just, we'll go through these plan by plan. Just, what are we looking at here on C-101? It's a cover sheet, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, cover sheet notes, details are the first
Okay.
couple.
And the same 102, 103, same thing, right?
Yeah.
All right, let's look at 201.
Yeah, so starting,
Explain to the Planning Commission what we're looking at here, C-201.
starting on C201, this is our existing conditions plan. So as EJ and Alan described, you can see the existing impervious area is being used as a surface parking lot with a couple islands, shrubbery included around the perimeter. There's one access off of Giddings Avenue in the existing condition.
And that you have to get permission from the State Highway Administration for, is that correct? Coming off of Ridgely?
That'll be shown on the next plan.
Oh, okay, all right. Okay, then let's look at that. The C-301 is what I'm referring to now.
Yes. On this site plan, you can see the proposed features of the 3-story office building. As Alan mentioned, we have the access off of Ridgely Avenue, which requires state highway approval, and then the second entrance off of Giddings, which mimics the existing condition. As mentioned, there's a structured parking lot. The entrance off of Giddings leads to a below-grade area, and then off of Ridgely is on the first floor. So there's no interconnectivity between the two parking areas. Generally, the site slopes, as was shown in the photos, from the north corner of the site at the intersection to the southern corner where the mouse is, highlighting. There's an existing inlet, which leads to an existing storm drain system. And that's being maintained. We are tying into that in our proposed condition. We've also located several planters around the site. The 3 in the back behind the parking are going to be utilized for stormwater management. All of the drainage coming off of the roof of the building will be directed into those facilities for stormwater management treatment. These are 3 microbioretention planter boxes, which meet Maryland State Code as well as the City of Annapolis requirements.
How about the next plan that it talks about site details? What are these details in C-302?
These are details for construction, mainly for the contractor, showing some striping, curbs, ramps.
Right. And C-303, more of the same.
Yes.
Okay, how about C-304? What is this called? Site distance analysis plan? Could you explain that?
Sure. We showed the site triangles at each of the entrances to demonstrate compliance with visibility for a car exiting our site onto both of the proposed entrance locations. And this demonstrates that while there are some small obstructions with the planter boxes or stairs, that those obstructions are minimal. And actually on the following sheet, we showed a profile view of the sight lines, further demonstrating that the eye of the driver would be able to see over the shrubbery within those planters, which are a maximum of 2 feet high.
And that's the C-305 that you're referring to, right?
Yes.
The next plan is the erosion and sediment control plan. That's C-401. Would you explain that?
Sure. We're proposing a 2-phase erosion sediment control strategy, which includes wrapping the site in silt fence to contain erosion and sediment leaving the site. There's a standard construction entrance as well that'll remove debris from construction traffic. And then the second phase demonstrates the fully built condition, as well as where a stockpile would potentially be located.
And this is all during construction, right?
Yes.
And the next couple of plans are details with respect to that. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Then you have a grading plan, C501.
Yep. So again, this is mostly to provide information to the contractor for construction. It does further describe the grades, as mentioned, falling from Ridgely and Giddings Avenue intersection towards the rear of the site.
Okay. And then the next one is the proposed utility plan. You obviously have water and sewer available at the site.
Yes,
Right.
we are tying into the public water and sanitary lines in Ridgely Avenue to provide service to the building.
Right, and the next couple of plans just show the details of water and sewer, right?
Yep.
But, you know, and the city's already determined there's adequacy of both, right?
Correct.
Okay. Why don't we talk about the storm drain plan that you have? That's C701. Can you describe how that works?
Yep, so on this sheet, we've mapped out our drainage areas to each of the inlets or specific drainage areas on site. And this was part of our storm drain capacity calculations to determine that both the proposed and the off-site downstream storm drains have capacity. I think generally that sums up this sheet.
Okay. How about stormwater management? Let's spend a little time on that.
Yeah.
And that's C801, and then you have a plan that your office prepared for stormwater management. Can you describe how stormwater is to be managed and what percentage of the stormwater is managed on site?
Yes, so similar to the storm drainage plan, this really just focuses on the 3 planter boxes that I previously described. It demonstrates that appropriate drainage area is being routed to each of the 3 microbial retentions. And if you go to the next sheet, you can see a profile view and detail of each of these facilities. They're in a structured concrete box. There's engineered material that'll provide the quality treatment. And the site was viewed as a redevelopment project because of the 40% or greater existing impervious area. From there, we used the 125% multiplier that set our ESD target requirement, and we are meeting that. We are slightly in excess with our cubic feet that we are actually providing treatment for.
And under tab 6 is something entitled Boulder Major Site Design Plan Stormwater Management Report. Does that summarize what you just described?
Yes.
I mean, it has a number of calculations and that sort of thing, but you treat 125%. That's the bottom line, so to speak, right?
Correct, yep.
Okay. All right, does the, do the stormwater plans that you submitted satisfy the city requirements in all respects?
Yes.
Have you gotten any comments from the Department of Public Works about these plans?
We did receive comments throughout the development review process, and we've submitted responses. At this point, there's no further comments, so we believe that all have been addressed.
Okay, very good. I have no other questions at this time for Ms. Carpenter.
Thank you.
Do you have anything to do with electrical utility access?
My understanding is there is an existing utility pole along Ridgely that we are utilizing to supply power to the building.
Have you visited the site?
I have not, but my team has.
Okay. What are the advantages and disadvantages of green roof as stormwater management?
From an ESD volume treatment perspective, you do not get much volume from a green roof, which is why it was considered but ultimately decided not to be an ideal practice for this site. As previously mentioned, it would lower our total impervious area. However, it would not provide the volume required to meet the city requirements overall. at least as a standalone practice.
Mr. Hyatt, is there anybody at your table who does know anything about electrical access and the state of the situation as it exists?
Do you know anything about it?
I mean, one of the things you might do is put up a photograph of the existing site along Giddings Avenue.
What's the question?
Is your microphone on? That's the
It
first
is,
question.
sir. Yes.
My question is, if you walk down Giddings Avenue, there are a series of utility poles, one of them leaning dangerously across the property in question. And they're very ugly. So since this is such a prominent location in West Annapolis, I'm wondering what can be done.
Yeah, I'm not sure you have the right person answering it. I think that's a question for BG&E.
Well, maybe it's Mr. Rumpke.
Again, I don't really know what the question is.
Well, you
But the
have,
que-
you're saying you have overhead utility.
You've got
Lines.
you've got a bad situation. You've already got one pole that's already leaning badly and another couple that are not doing so great. And it's really ugly. And as you claim, this is a beautiful building in a very prominent location in West Annapolis, and you really want to do something to increase the value of the property rather than have it be so aesthetically damaged and perhaps even physically damaged by all these utility, electrical, and cable lines. So the question was, what can be done?
I think at this stage, right, we're just trying to work through what I would call the entitlement process. And right now we're in front of you guys to see if we have a viable project here. This isn't something that we have spoken to BG&E about or have looked into. So yes, there is a power pole right there that you can see. And, if we're successful in moving this project forward, we'll endeavor to have conversations with BG&E about, what the future of that pole may or may not be, but I don't have an answer beyond that.
What about the possibility of burying utility lines?
I just said I don't know what the future of that pole looks like. I know that is very expensive to do, but that's the extent of my knowledge about burying a power pole.
Well, in your construction, and I couldn't even begin to figure out which of the Bowler notes to look at. In your construction, your sediment plan probably goes to the property line, if not to the curb line.
Yeah, it goes to the curb line and a little beyond in certain
All right,
places.
so you'll be tearing up everything from the curb in.
Sidewalks, right?
Correct? Correct?
Yeah, this project is going to provide new sidewalks.
Yeah, didn't
and
Mr.
plaza.
Hyatt?
Yep.
Everything from the curb line in is going to be, it's part of the construction site, right? It's going to be all pulled up, it's going to be all demolished, it's going to be all done, it's going to be excavated.
I think
Okay?
that's fair. I
Now,
think that's fair.
is that not a proper opportunity to bury those utility lines, at least in front of this building, if not in front of 706, which they also own? Do you follow me?
I think it's a conversation to be had with BG&E, but burying utility lines, based on my experience, is a very expensive project, and I don't think that a 27,000-foot building could absorb that expense.
So what are you doing on Ridgely?
In terms of,
Are there utility lines on poles on Ridgely?
I believe so,
Okay. What are you doing with them? Not burying them?
not burying them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're burying the line coming into the building from what's available at BGE's current power infrastructure. So the stuff that touches our building will come in underground. the stuff that comes from the BG&E grid is theirs, and we're happy to come down into our building to support any future program BG&E has to put their entire infrastructure up underground.
Next.
Okay, thank you. I'll call Nick Reese, please.
Thanks, Alan.
Mr. Reese, just tell the chair and the members of the planning commission who you are and what you do for a living.
Yep, Nick Reese. I work for Campion Ruby Landscape Architects. I'm a principal at the firm. 20 years experience as a landscape architect. Work on many projects with both EJ and Hammond Wilson.
And did you do the landscape architectural work on this particular project?
Yes, sir.
And I'll direct you to tab 4 in the package. And Andrew, if you don't mind pulling that up. Is this the cover page of the plans that you prepared?
Yes.
Let's just take a moment and go through these plans.
Yep.
You know, on the second drawing, L003, you have some notes, right? Just what are they all about?
Some standard planting notes, tree protection notes if they apply, soil preparation notes for planting, ensuring that we have good quality soils and we're disturbing as least as possible on site during construction.
And that's also true for the next
Yes,
plan
sir.
as well. The planting notes continue, is that
Correct,
right?
correct. Just 2 pages of notes.
Okay. And then on LP 100, there's a plan that shows or is designated as planting plan.
Yep,
And this shows the detail of what the planting and landscape architecture looks like on the site, right?
correct.
And
So-
could you describe that?
Yes, sir. Our intention is to plant the building on all 4 sides, to provide buffer yards on all 4 sides as required by city code. Planting at the southeast and southwest corners are mostly evergreen screening, things to provide some buffers from the adjacent buildings and other uses nearby. Whereas on the northeast and north corners of the property, more of a public right-of-way space, welcoming sidewalks, improving the kind of broken sidewalk that is along Ridgely Avenue right now to a more gracious and welcoming sidewalk, picking up on the language of the neighborhood. Street trees are provided both for shade, but also to meet the city requirement. Species were selected to be both native to the Chesapeake and Atlantic regions, and also to fit into the rest of the West Annapolis context, which is the willow oak, which we've successfully planted at both RAR Tap House, 100 Ridgely, and at 103 Ridgely. So from a landscape standpoint, we feel like we're creating this neighborhood dynamic with a very similar native canopy species that does really well for streetscapes.
How about outdoor lighting? Did you address?
There's outdoor lighting provided for obviously safety for steps and grade change as necessary, but also to provide some just natural beauty and aesthetic at nighttime to highlight some of those willow oaks and the nice building, but also for path lighting, wayfinding for guests that might be entering the buildings, in particular at the corner.
The next plan is LP 101, tree inventory plan. You want to just give a quick summary of that plan?
Yep. So we met with an arborist on site to just go through all the existing trees on site. Most of them were overgrown. Some of them are non-natives. They're, as you guys can saw from the pictures earlier, they're kind of leaning, falling into the streets, into the parking lots. Again, they're non-natives, they're overgrown, they're hazards to the site. Our intention is to remove all of them as part of the programming for the project, but to replace them with the mitigation requirements that are required by the city.
You don't have any steep slopes on this site, do you?
We do not.
No sensitive environmental features that
We do
you're
not.
aware of?
We do not.
The details.
Hyatt, do you have a microphone in front of you?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm not.
Just want to make sure.
Okay, yeah, it should be going into the mic. The you've evaluated the soils.
We've evaluated the existing soils. We're going to build planter boxes on the upper portion of the site, kind of towards Plan Northwest, the top left corners. Raised planter boxes that'll provide adequate depths for these trees to grow and thrive as intended. We've looked at the city manual and also the requirements of these trees to ensure that we don't need silvacells for this project. We've met the requirements of soil volume per the city code in these planter boxes.
Do you believe your plan meets all the criteria set forth in the city's landscape manual and in the city code under the B2 zoning designation?
I do.
Is there anything else you'd like to add about the landscape architecture?
Just to tie into Haley's point before, the stormwater boxes on the south portion of the building, they'll be planted with native plants, again, to digest that water, filter that water before it goes back into that stormwater inlet so that it's not just hot and dirty water going out back into the bay, but it's refreshed and it's been recharged before it goes back out.
Is it fair to say that currently there are no quality trees on the site?
There are no quality trees on that site.
So everything gets replaced at this
Correct,
point?
correct.
Okay. All right. Mr. Chairman, that concludes my questioning of this witness. If you have any questions for him now,
Of course.
please,
Yes, sir.
please proceed.
Have you had the opportunity to read the staff report?
Yes, sir.
And there are several conditions that are proposed or required in terms of soils. Okay. Some of them involve using soils that are currently on site. Do you intend to do that?
I think to our best ability, what we'll do is once excavation has begun, we'll find what the native soils are on site. We'll test them. We'll ensure that their qualities meet the merits of good planting soils for future plants. Our intention would be to use the existing soils and amend them as best as possible, as opposed to removing them from the site and bringing in new soils.
Okay, I'm not understanding some stuff about the trees in the planter boxes,
Okay.
not the buyer retention ones in the back and on the side, but in the
front
front.
ones.
Along Giddings and Ridgely.
Yes.
You mentioned that they're tree planter boxes. Now, does that mean that all of their root structure stays in the planter box above the ground?
It does, but the planter box goes below grade as well. So in part of the excavation of the existing parking lot, we're going to go down to a depth of 30 to 36 inches to provide adequate soil volume so that those roots can thrive and become the street trees that they should be. Develop the canopies as
Willow oaks
intended.
can grow to be 60 feet,
Yep, and we've had success with that in this area. And
and you only need, by your calculations, to go down 3 feet?
it's 36 inches of depth, but it's also about lateral as well. The roots mostly grow laterally, so we're providing a lot of length and width in these planter boxes to get that requirement for those roots. Yes, sir.
Now, there's also sidewalk, and there's also terrace, and there's also sorts of other things. Certainly, you want roots to be able to spread laterally.
We want them to spread laterally, but also not impair the sidewalks that are being built, right? So we'll do things like possibly root pruning or providing some sort of a root barrier to limit the tree roots from going under those sidewalks and cracking sidewalks in the future.
What about using silvacells to support upper pavements?
Silvacells are great. I've done them on projects before. Like Alan and EJ were suggesting earlier about green roofs, they can tend to be very expensive, and if we have the soil volume required by the city code and by what merits the trees requirements, I think we can meet it without silvacells. I really do.
Who's gonna, if I could ask staff, who keeps an eye on that as to whether there's adequate room below surface, for these trees to thrive?
If I can answer, one of the comments we got was from Brian Adams. I think he's the city arborist, right? And he told us what the requirements were. We've ensured that we've met those requirements.
Okay. There is a condition that silvacells be used.
Could be used or
No,
should be used.
nope. Include. under adjacent sidewalks?
My understanding was that comment was if the soil volumes were not met. And our drawings provide the calculations to show that we have met those soil requirements.
Well, there's a condition. We want to make sure. If you look on Main Street and you look in the lowest block of Main Street, on one side, they did not use silver cells.
Sure.
And on the other side, they did. And the difference is obvious. Okay?
Fair.
And we've been really, really careful about trying to get these things to grow over the long term.
Silver cells are fantastic, I agree, but I would argue that probably the right side wasn't prepared adequately for those trees that went in without silver cells.
That's probably true also. What kind of paving is being used on the terrace?
It's
And the
undecided.
sidewalk? And the sidewalk?
It's undecided right now. It's probably a poured-in-place concrete with a decorative scoring pattern. There could be natural stone closer to the building, but it's going to be something that highlights the streetscape of the town, not something that's ugly,
That
something that
highlights
fits
the streetscape of the town?
in. Or West Annapolis, across the street at Ridgely Ave, we have poured-in-place concrete with a beautiful scoring pattern. I think we'd probably pick up on that same language.
Is that anywhere in the materials that we've seen?
I don't think it's listed in the landscape plans, no. We could provide an addendum for that if necessary, for a materials booklet, if you'd like.
Who maintains these planter boxes and the buyer retention? What kind of maintenance is required first?
Maintenance will be picked up by the owner of the building, and our intention is to plant native plants that don't require much maintenance past the first 18 months to 2 years. They're native to the Chesapeake Bay region. They require little maintenance at the beginning, and then they kind of take off, and they're part of the natural ecosystem.
Yeah, what I was going to add is that we would maintain them as the landlord owner of the property, and we'd be on a stormwater management bond, right? So we would get checked on all these different aspects that we're doing and executing on what we said we do, and that would, go on for a couple of years, and then from that point, the city can come check on things. But we've been a bond to say we're going to do what we say we're going to do with the plans.
So there's a 2-year bond for maintenance on these things?
I don't know if it's 2 years specifically. It's in that range of 2 to 4 years.
Well, let me go back to the landscape architect. Over 10 years, what needs to be done in these things?
A 10-year canopy plan for the trees would be just some thinning of the branches as they get older, ensuring that they're not getting in the way of overhead power lines, utilities, things like that. From a ground plane standpoint, it's a once a year, minimal maintenance kind of cut back, trimming of the shrubs, cut back the ground plane of the perennials and grasses, let them come back up and regenerate. Everything is a perennial. It's intended to be a perennial, not an annual, so things that get planted once and they stay there for the duration.
Do they clog?
They don't clog, no. I don't see any reason why they would clog. I'm not sure what you mean by clog, but like clog stormwater?
Yeah, I mean, the whole point is that they filter through, and if they become clogged, they're useless.
Sure,
Just
sure.
overflow.
And again, that's part of the soil volume that we've prepared and we've detailed, is that there's enough volume there to filter those imperfections, those terrible things out of the soil and keep the good nutrients in. Under drains at the bottom of those planter boxes, likely.
Okay, I'm not so sure about that. Okay.
Yeah, what I would add, so I run a firm called Thomas Park. We manage 7.5 million square feet of commercial space. A lot of that's in the Maryland, Baltimore, Annapolis area. As a property management firm and as an owner, we engage in, cleaning of these stormwater management facilities, right? So the last thing we want is to build something that doesn't work and have water overflowing and create a mess. So as a part of our annual landscape cleanup, spring cleanup, things like that. We're checking on them, pulling stuff out, making sure they're good. So that's common practice in the commercial property management kind of maintenance world, and it's something that we would do here.
What always concerns me about these applications is that everything starts out well and then the building gets sold and all of the promises are not kept. That's always a possibility, and it's always what concerns me with the long-term vision of what can happen. Anyway, let's move on.
Well, there's no question that the trees have to be maintained as time goes on, and you may recall 20-some years ago, you approved the building that I'm in at 200 Westgate Circle. And those trees, next time you go by that building, take a look at the street trees and see how
200
substantial.
Westgate Circle.
This formerly Severn Bank building, now Shore
Oh.
United Bank building, yeah. I mean,
Formerly the Hyatt building?
no, it's, we've always
okay.
been Severn Bank building.
Yeah.
But
No.
it's interesting because that's 20-some years that we've been there, and those trees were pretty small when we planted them, and take a look and see what's happened now.
I walked by there just the other evening, and I remarked to myself about how good they look. They're big, they're
Yep.
strong. I don't know what happened underground, but they really do add to and soften the whole building.
They do.
So that's a success, Mr. Hyatt.
Yes, it is, thank you. Yep, and I think exactly the same thing will happen here.
Well, I'm sure you. Touche.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? for
No,
Mr.
sir.
Reese? Okay. Then I would call on, who's going to go first? Mr. Fishback or Mr. Wilson? Okay, all right. So I will call Andrew Fishback as our next witness. And you're familiar with Andrew. His resume has been submitted. And I would just ask Andrew to identify himself for the record.
Andrew Fishback with Hammond Wilson Architects.
And Mr. Fishback, you're obviously well familiar with the city code,
That's correct.
and you've designed many buildings in the city of Annapolis.
correct.
Is that correct? Including these buildings that Mr. Rumpke talked about.
Correct. 100
in
Ridgely.
West Annapolis, yep.
Yep,
You
Catty
did all
Corner,
that,
yep.
So why don't we take a few minutes and have you explain the architectural features of this building?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, all right, you talk about the plans, and then your
About the
compadre here will
exterior.
talk about
Perfect.
the, okay, very good.
Right, so off Ridgely is the main entry, and Nick and Haley pointed that out. There's a large double volume main lobby as you come in. Adjacent to that is a office space about 3,000 square feet. To the right, you can see the Ridgely entry to the garage. There we go. All right. And that goes in a slight elevation up to make room for the parking below. It's approximately 19 spots here. We have 2 handicap spots. Access via this entry that comes down to the shared lobby and stair. On the lower level is underground parking, and that from the 19 spots above, plus these is a total of 55 spots.
Are these plans numbered, just so everybody can follow?
Yeah, sure.
The hard copies?
Well, I can go over to the main set,
Okay.
one of the exhibits here.
All right, let's do that.
So A100, that's the garage floor
Yep.
plan. So you can see it's all underground parking, and it goes about a story and a half below grade, and it's connected here. There's a lobby up to the main lobby, and this elevator, of course, goes up throughout the building. There's the incoming water service and electrical storage areas. This is the ground floor we just spoke about on A101. And then above that is the second floor office space. Here we show it divided between 2 tenants with a share corridor and restrooms and some outdoor space along the south side. And then the top floor, again, 2 office tenants with both outdoor rooftop terraces.
Is the main entrance off of Giddings?
Is off Ridgely.
Okay.
Yeah. Just to go back there, the main entry door is off Ridgely, and you have access on Giddings through the plaza.
Okay. Could we hold on a second? I understand that Ms. Butler has a question.
You know what? I've had that
Are you
question for a
on
while.
mute?
We can either do it now or jump back to it. It was a question from
Ms.
Ms.
Butler, we
Carpenter.
cannot hear you.
Oh. I'm not sure how to. I have it unmuted. I'm
One second.
unmuted.
I can hear you, Diane.
Okay, they
you
can't.
Ms. Butler, can you hold the question and then we can come back to you once you figure out what's going on? Okay.
Sure.
'Cause we
I mean,
can't
I'm unmuted, but
have you and the screen share at the same time. But
okay.
we'll come back to you, okay?
Okay. Thanks.
Whoa, here we go. Now we hear you.
All right, this question is going to seem out of order because I've had my hand up for a while, but it was a question from Ms. Carpenter about what is the increase in impervious surface?
That's actually a decrease. It's not an increase.
Hi, good evening. The impervious surface area in the existing condition is 16,800 square feet, and then in the proposed condition, it's 18,300 square feet. So about 1,500 additional square feet.
Right. And I listened to all of your stormwater explanation. I completely understand. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So we can go back to screen share? Thank you.
Right, so we were on the roof plan, so just real quickly, simple flat roof with drainage down to those bioretention are on the rear of the property.
Okay. So I'm calling Leo Wilson, and now we're going to get into some of the features of the building, right?
Correct. My name's Leo Wilson with Hammond Wilson Architects. I'm the senior principal there. And, this work is really pretty exciting for us. This is just one in a line of opportunities we've had in West Annapolis, and it's kind of developed its own character since its inception, and we're doing our best to try and reinforce the fact that it isn't the historic neighborhoods in Annapolis. That's a little bit different, but yet it references architecturally a connection, let's say. So what we came up with here from this, it's kind of what I would consider to be, this is infill redevelopment work that we're doing. So we have a parking lot that's not great, and the idea is to create a sense of place that's improved on this corner. So we came up with the concept to go with a masonry frame with openings that are bright and airy, layered with another piece of the structure you can see pulled back from the street face, and it penetrates the top of the building to create kind of a second layer of architecture, if you will. And then these two pieces open up at the corner to provide a sense of entry and to address the corner, which I think is important when you have the opportunity to do it with these corner properties. The scale of the building, 3 stories, I think you could argue that you could go higher, but the efficiency of that is certainly evident. But in this neighborhood, you start to get any higher, I think you run into trouble. So we stick with the 3. We're able to create some outdoor area on the upper level and try and meet the street face. It's always a challenge whether you bring the building right up to the property line or you create a buffer. And it seems that when we look around West Annapolis, many of the buildings existing and more recent provide a buffer. And so that buffer creates a nice green space between the pedestrian experience and the face of the building, which gives us an opportunity for the trees that you just spoke about earlier. This project was especially interesting to me because we started the discussions back in 2024, and we had a community meeting in March of 2025. That went well. We got some creative and helpful input from the community. We submitted for site design plan review in April. And then during the site design plan review application, we got a note from one of the reviewers here in the room tonight, Kim, that Ms. Burke, that said, I don't think this building looks like what we talked about at the community meeting. I'm not sure if you remember that. And so we talked about this layering I was talking about at the corner. And so we said, well, let's talk about it. And it's one of the things I think we're thankful we have the opportunity to do. Eric came over, Mike Meekins came over, Kim came over, other members of the department came to the office, and we put the SketchUp model up and talked about the layering of the structure and how far back the frame went behind the masonry wall and whether we wanted to express it or not. And it was kind of like a charrette, if you will. And the part that was fun for me about that is Kim had an idea about what she thought was appropriate, and some of the other staff members. Andrew had an idea about what he thought was right, and somehow we came to like middle ground. That's what you see tonight. And so the staff report, I think, is favorable because we use that opportunity to work with staff to come up with a solution we think works not only for our owner, but and not only for the community, but I think it's just going to be a nice improvement over there. So we stayed with materials that people know. We didn't try and go too far outside the box with the forms. And we tried to give it a sense of place and character that seemed like it worked well over there. So the rest of the imagery, let's go, what else we have. This is what you'll see from the side. You can see the parking ramp that goes down off to the left. You can see the way the corner is addressed on the right. We've kind of extended this small canopy piece, the thin piece at the roof. Provides some sunshades around there. We tried to tint the glass ever so slightly for energy performance. The building will have to meet green building requirements for approval through the city plans review process. And yeah, that's kind of where we're landing. And happy to answer questions about the design.
Could you just comment on the compatibility of this building with respect to the neighborhood and how it fits in with the city's comprehensive plan, that sort of thing?
Yeah, I'm happy to talk about that, Alan. I think the staff report did a real nice job too, though. It went point by point and essentially, confirmed what we had been discussing, where the scale of the building was where we thought it was appropriate for this site, the fenestration, the openings, the way it relates to the other structures, not too big, not too small, pulled back from the face. A little more traditional in the window openings. All of those things are intended to be compatible with the precinct that we're within.
Yeah. Thank you. I have no further questions for Mr. Wilson.
I have a question. I think it's a beautifully designed building. Did I read somewhere at this point you don't know who the tenants may be in the building, who may rent the property?
I'm going to let Mr. Rumpke talk to that.
Yeah, we don't know who the tenants will be. We own a lot of office product in Annapolis and Anne Arundel County, and there's definitely what I would say a flight to quality in terms of people want to locate their businesses here, and if they're going to be in an office, they want to be in a nice building. So there's definitely demand for Class A product. I'd put this building in that category. So we've been approached by some different groups that are interested in space, but we don't have anything set at this time.
Okay, thank you.
I have a quick question.
Mr. Pline.
Yeah, so it's just really more of a hypothetical. If the zoning were anything for that building, if the zoning were anything you could decide, would you still build an office building? I'm just curious. Is that really what you want to build?
Well, I mean, it's a great question, but unfortunately, that stuff's not up to me. The zoning code's pretty clear.
That's really a question for Mr. Rumpke.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I mean, are you proposing an office building because that's sort of what fits best with the zoning? And if it were, I don't know, something a little bit more permissive, would you still propose what you proposed? It's just a hypothetical out of curiosity more than anything.
Yeah, I think I think an office building fits well here. When you're putting projects together, you need to look at the financial viability of attracting potential renters to your project. And kind of given what I just said on the office front, I think we can kind of turn a pretty dilapidated parking lot into a beautiful project that has a lot of positives to it. So, I think my short answer is yes. And, I'm excited to hopefully bring this one forward.
Great. I'm just asking sort of in the context of the West Annapolis master plan that was developed in the last year and a half, and also the comp plan. So, I mean, I don't think I think it fits. I'm just curious if the particular zoning that's there now drove you in a certain direction, and it sounds like the answer is no. You do this anyway.
That's correct.
Okay, thanks.
I mean,
I
Alex,
also have a quick question.
Alex, I was going to add to that. We've been through this study of the zoning requirements on properties all over the city, and I participated at the county level as well. And the reality is what the city really needs is more housing. And what it needs is the zoning to adjust to provide opportunities for multifamily housing that meets the bar in terms of being profitable for the developer, or at least, close to it. And without incentives to provide successful projects on that front, we're going to struggle for the foreseeable future. So any opportunity that you as Planning Commission members have to provide more latitude there, I think that would solve a big problem that the city has.
Yeah, that's sort of where I was going with that, but
What
your
were
property,
the
you get the choice of how to develop it.
What were the constraints placed against residential?
Well, you can't get to the density you need to on a parcel this big. You just can't do it because it costs too much per square foot to build a building included with the property cost and the development fees. You would have to have a much larger project to be successful. And
What if it were 4 stories?
you got a long way to go. I mean,
Still not.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at what people are doing in DC that's making money, or at least being built, the scale is, exponentially larger than what this parcel or many in this city can provide. That's the challenge. Yeah, 22,000 feet as a parcel is really hard. And when you put into that, not to lecture, but when you put into that the requirements for parking, which the city is starting to provide more latitude for, but the stormwater management and the runoff requirements, all of a sudden, like the puzzle, unless you have big parcels, is very hard to put together.
Is the parking the main obstacle?
No, I wouldn't say it's the main one, but it sure is a big one.
Well, 161 West seemed to make it work. But anyway, I know we're getting too far afoot here, but thanks for accommodating my curiosity here.
Oh, pleasure.
I have a question.
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Wilson, I love your schematics, and that one, the one that you just showed a few minutes ago, is beautiful. I note that it did not show the telephone poles at all. And I was wondering, do you have a depiction of what this looks like with the telephone poles and the overhead lines and where the trees fit into place? I love willow oaks. I love that as a choice, but I'm just wondering what that looks like with the telephone lines overhead.
It's a great question. When I create these renderings, we're working, pretty quickly to try and set it into the context. And it's the last thing that would be layered on because it would go in front of the building. So we don't include it for several reasons. I'll be honest. One is that I don't like the way it looks, right? Because it detracts from what I see of the building. I don't disagree with you there. What I do want to make clear, though, is it's an unbearably heavy lift to ask a developer to put lines down in front of the property on a corner like this where there's 2 sets of lines that continue for blocks and blocks in each direction. And they're not my lines, they're BG&E's lines. And the city of Annapolis took it upon themselves to bury the lines on Main Street, which is a gift to the community. And my hope is that West West Annapolis will be in the same position at some point to do the same. What I can offer is to make sure that everything that comes into my building, our building, this building, will be underground and out of sight. Electric, power, water, sewer, gas, telecom, all underground. But I cannot, and the client can't lift that much. It's too much of an ask. You saw the lines. I mean, it's an enormous undertaking. This comes up on every project that we do, and, you know, until BG&E figures out a way to, you know, handle that stuff as a more holistic approach to communities like West Annapolis, I think it's not possible for the
Is it
developers
possible
to do it.
to prepare any infrastructure now for later doing it, changing the lines? For instance, does it make sense to put in the concrete boxes or whatever they're called?
The junction box. Yeah, so it's a great question. I did that at my building. We put the junction boxes in so we could run lines underground. The junction box will be there as part and parcel of our undergrounding power supply to our building. So there'll be a vault where those connections can be made at some point in the future should the city decide to or BG&E decide to put the lines underground. And I can tell you with high level of confidence, if BG&E decided to put those underground, my owner will do whatever they can to accommodate that type of move.
But doesn't it make sense to put not just the junction, but the whole connection box?
You would think so, but it's just a matter of time. What BG&E does is they directionally bore these lines from one end of the block to the other and sleeve it with PVC and then put the lines through it. So it's bored at some point when they want to do all of it together. So I can't even anticipate where they'll want to run those lines, because sometimes it's in the street, sometimes it's under the sidewalk, and sometimes it cuts across the street to different junction points. So it would take some planning on BG&E's side for us to accommodate it. Now, can they drill underneath of it? Sure, but I can't tell them where they might possibly put those. We don't have that ability.
My other question has to do with sidewalks. I'm very happy that you're doing more than the minimum 5-foot sidewalks. And it sounds like you're proposing some expanded shaded paver area away from the street to create a safe environment for pedestrians away from the street. Can someone talk about that and where that is? I couldn't really see it in that slide that was just up.
Hi. There's some expanded, deeper sidewalks as they get closer to the building, so that guests' entrance to the building is a wider streetscape area. As you mentioned, we have wider sidewalks than the 5-foot minimum on the two corners, Ridgely and Giddings. But then as it gets to the building, it deepens to a much wider space. There's planter boxes that people can get respite behind and get underneath the shade of those willow oaks that are on the two streetscape
What
sides.
document are you looking at?
Just looking at one of the overall site plans, like the planting plan.
If we got the screen share back, I can show it on the renderings. You can see it pretty clearly.
Is there any attempt to integrate the whatever paving is used in the terrace with the sidewalk so that it becomes one kind of smooth expanse? Since you're making new sidewalks anyway.
Absolutely. I think materials will be discussed with the owner as far as what we can do, but color-wise, texture-wise, we'll ensure that as best we can to have a seamless kind of corner approach from both sidewalk to the building facade.
Yeah, I mean, including the sidewalks, the public
Correct.
sidewalks, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And so the public sidewalks are greater than 5 feet, or do they get to 5 feet towards the edges?
Yep, they're a little bit wider at the edges at the corner. They meet the requirements of like a nice 8x8 at the corners, and it's a more welcoming corner position, and then a 6-foot sidewalk along the two sides.
Right. I think personally, I think the 5-foot minimum for the city is too small, and I wish it would be 6.
Yep.
So thank you.
I agree.
Yeah.
Is
That's
there any
what-
way you would put a tree in that corner instead of a planter?
It was a sightline issue. We also had to go back to the, what Haley was talking about earlier about turning from that corner at Giddings originally. We have to make sure that the plants in that corner don't obstruct views for vehicles.
Right, but a tree that you would trim up so that the branches don't start until, 8 feet up would be perfect there. And it would give your guests or people arriving a beautiful place to sit. And pedestrians coming up and down that street. I just think it would be really a wonderful addition.
Yeah.
I don't disagree, but the code doesn't provide opportunity to do that. I can't provide any growth that goes above a certain height in those corner conditions, because who knows who's going to take care of it.
And that does include a trunk of a tree, unfortunately.
That's right. So
you're saying our code prohibits planting of a tree on that corner?
that's right.
Huh.
Because of the triangle, the view triangle.
It's a view triangle from a driver's perspective in the car.
No, but what I'm saying is if you put a tree that, you trim up so that it's not, in this case.
Understood.
Yeah, you wouldn't see.
Yep, the trunk and the trunk still, it falls into that. It's just about an obstruction in the view. Even a 10-inch trunk can be an obstruction in the view in the certain position where a car could be sitting.
Interesting. Well, that's certainly a code change we might want to think about. Because I could see where a tree wouldn't be an obstruction at all if it was trimmed up like the trees you're depicting in that rendering.
Sure.
Thank you.
So it would be planted in the public space, not in the private space?
There's plantings in the private space, not in the public space.
Right.
Correct.
If there were one in the corner, as she suggests, would it be planted in the private space?
It wouldn't be on the sidewalk. It would still be on the MRE property, in that planter box. Inside the property line, not in the public right of way. So like where that big gray square was, if she was assuming that was a tree, that's where I would probably put it, at that corner, which is inside the property line.
So the maintenance would be done by the owner?
It's still a view corridor issue, though.
Okay.
You can see on the diagram
Yeah.
that's in front of you right now, that green area is a required site triangle, and I can't put anything above 3 feet in. That's just the rule. So we could perhaps look at a tree that's inside of that, that's, outside of the green area. If we moved it over, we'd have to check and see, but any canopy that drops into that is considered an intrusion. So that would have to be something we could discuss with zoning staff when we get to that point. I'm not opposed to having a tree there, but I just know the rules. And if there's green in the way there that's above 3 feet, they ask me to trim it.
Okay. Corner street tree.
Would it help to be in that far with respect to the power lines too?
The trees were carefully selected, and they're going to be maintained so that they don't interfere with the power lines above them. We've been
Right,
through
but
this too.
if it's off the curb out of that site triangle, it's going to be farther away from the power lines.
Well, only when you put it in the ground. After several years, it could easily get up into the lines. But as I said, the trees that have been picked are designed to be compatible with the lines the way they are. So, for instance, some trees have a softer canopy that's a little more flowing, and so those types of trees do better under those lines. In this case, they're set up to be underneath of them.
The willow oak has a branching structure that lends itself very well to kind of pruning around power lines. And
Well, I know. I have two. Okay. Think about your tree issues, okay? I want to go on to another subject. Part of what our job is in terms of site design review has to do with pedestrians and what the streetscape is like, and whether it adds to the beauty and utility of the community. And one of the things that I've noticed about this is that this building proposes two large curb cuts and accesses into garage. And it's well known that curb cuts and garage accesses are deadly for street life. And there's a lot of talk about walkability and walk to work and connectivity. But every time that there's one of those entrances, there's death. It's a black hole. And starting at the other end of that block of Giddings Avenue, there is one curb cut into the professional building at the corner. There are 2 curb cuts, very large curb cuts, double lane accesses at 706 Giddings, which is owned by this company. And this proposes 2 more curb cuts, one large one on Giddings and another fairly large one on Ridgely. I have a number of questions. The first question is, if you had to choose one access into this garage, which one would you choose?
Well, it's a great question. I mean, in an ideal world, I would probably pick the one on Giddings, but the reality of the site doesn't permit it. And I think you might remember when we talked about the grade differentiation from one corner of the property to the other. The way it sets up now, one comes in and goes down, and one comes in and goes up. And I don't have the ability within this 22,000 square foot parcel to operate effectively with one entrance. There's just not the room. Because I can't, the parking garage like at the City Works, when I have to do a loop, I need so much space, and I just don't have it here. I'd have to give up the whole first floor. I'd have to go to a type of building where it's lifted above the parking to do that. So there's not a way for me to do it with one entry and meet the parking requirements that are in the code.
If the parking requirements were lessened,
well,
you could do a ramp.
Let's take a look for 1 second here. Show me the other plan, Andrew. Yeah, so go back to the prior one. Yeah, if you were to tell me that how many spaces are on that level? If you told me I could remove 19 spaces out of this property, then I could lose one of the driveways.
Okay, second question.
But I need the spaces.
Second question.
Yeah, let me just chime in there real quick. Sorry. There's also the viability of a commercially viable project, right? Like I need parking spaces for office tenants, so I can't have a 27,000 square foot office building with, the 20 or so spaces. So we need to mix the, commercial viability of a project against the code versus what we can build, and that's how we've ended up where we're at right now.
There's also an alley behind this building that's owned by the shopping center. I acknowledge that. It's owned by the shopping center. What are the possibilities of using that as an access rather than cutting through the sidewalk and creating a black hole for pedestrians?
If we're talking in the hypothetical, it sounds outstanding, right?
Okay.
But
well, this
if
is.
we're talking,
I want to take this opportunity to say this is exactly why there should have been a work session on this. Because this is the kind of thing that should have been hashed out a long time ago, rather than presenting us with a finished product that you are defending to the very last soldier. Okay? So I think that this alleyway needs to be investigated in some way. It needs to be seen whether it's practical, needs to be seen whether it's, it's feasible, and what's involved. I acknowledge that it's owned by the, I assume that it's owned by the shopping center. Item doesn't appear to be a public roadway, but it would really solve a major problem, because there is, in the West Annapolis master plan, and as you acknowledge even in your own comments, that Ridgely is to be green. And when you put an alley, a garage entrance, it ain't green. And you could add, you could add more terrace, you could add another tree or two, you could do things if you use the alley.
The reality is I don't own the alley.
I know you don't
And so
own it.
I don't have access to that alley. And
know.
also, the drive off of Ridgely serves 19 spaces. I mean, yes, it's a parking deck, but I mean, it's not 300 cars there. So, I mean, respectfully, I understand that it would be ideal if we didn't have it, but the realities of the requirement for how the building works, I need two. I don't have a way to reduce them, and I don't own the property next to me to take their drive and ask them to give it to me.
Yeah,
That's
but
not
if
that's
it-
not how
From the
that's not how it
beginning, if we'd
works.
started with that possibility, there might have been solutions, and we
That's
can't come up
that's a
with now.
stretch. That's a long stretch for me to ask the shopping center if I can come off of their property to enter my own. That never happens in the city. You'd have to point that out to me and see where that happens.
They do a favor, then later on, when they ask for favors, then they're going to get them. But, okay? This is what should have happened way earlier. All right.
Mr. Chairman, that would
I've
conclude.
dominated a lot of the questioning.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just be heard, that concludes our presentation. I want to make sure that our exhibits 1 through 22 are in the record.
They're in the record.
And I think based
And
upon.
it's open for any additions for adequate public facilities.
Understood. Okay.
Or anything else that you want to add.
Okay, and look, I respect your concerns and the points that you raised, but all we can do is focus on the property we control. And, it's a pretty modest site, 22,000 square feet. You can only do so much, and these folks are taking a pretty good risk with an attractive building. And I think we satisfy the criteria for site design plan approval based on our exhibits, the testimony, and the discussions. And I appreciate the hypotheticals, but I think that's beyond the application, and I would respectfully ask that you approve what we have presented tonight, because I think we check all the boxes for site design plan approval. I thank you for that.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, were there any public comments about this?
There were no public comments.
None. Okay.
None. And I would note that at the back of the notebook, you'll see that the very last appendix is the 400, all of the letters that were sent out.
Yes.
Okay. The public hearing is now closed, and we can begin a discussion. Mr. Cummings?
I'm fine with it. I think it meets the requirements as laid out. I hear some of the concerns. I think that we have mandatory minimum parking requirements. I think that they're doing what they can to meet those requirements. For me, I probably my biggest worry isn't something that we on this planning commission necessarily worry about. It's just the viability of the business viability of this. When you do an underground parking garage, it's on average $50,000 plus per parking spot. It's adding a lot of money to it. So that means the tenants, are going to be high level tenants. I think that's all well and good. Just I would caution, I guess, any additional asks that sound like they're going to add to the bottom line of building this development, because I think it meets the requirements, and it's going to be an expensive build. Just having $50,000 per parking spot in an underground garage, that's adding a lot. I mean, it's like they said, it's a very small footprint that they have to be able to recoup their capital investment. I'm okay with it.
Mr. Pline, Mr. Butler?
Yeah, so just to follow up on that, I was going to comment that, I like that the way, it would be nice if that alley could be used so we didn't have the curb cut on Ridgely to add another one. And by the way, it's probably, part of that alley is probably owned by the property next door, and probably part of it's owned by the shopping center. But be that as it may, I think they've done a good job at not making the parking really prominent, as in several of the other older I call them stilt buildings in West Annapolis, where, the entire first floor is parking, so the building next to it's sort of similar to that. So I applaud them for making the corner so prominent, having the entrance fronting Ridgely, because that's something I think Ridgely really needs is to have more presence. And having the parking done the way it is, with the added expense of having many of the spaces below grade, really puts that out of view. And I know that's expensive, but I think it's really shown in how the building, at least from the renderings, how it looks from the street. So I think that's great. And so sure, it would be nice if I wish in general there could be more of this sort of horse trading on something like an alley, but that's hard for us to mandate. But anyway, I think it's fine. I'm okay with the compromise, because I think that the benefits outweigh having just that one curb cut, especially since it's a smaller number of cars that would come in and out of there, and the fact that the sidewalks are larger than the city minimum. I really like. So I think it looks great. I don't have any problems with it. Seems pretty straightforward to me. And better having something that's attractive than a junky parking lot with branches that hit you in the head when you walk by there. So,
Ms. Butler?
Yeah, I think it checks the boxes. I'd really like to soften the corner where there's a planter instead of a tree, and I would like to suggest that if we can get agreement on a tree that doesn't impede any sight lines, that we do that instead of having the planter box. So I would probably just include that as a condition, because I think it probably can be done. And I'm also happy with the fact that the sidewalks are a little wider. I think that's a good sign moving forward. And Mr. Wilson, I'd love the rest of your renderings. I think we go through this each time. Please include all of the power lines in the future, just so we get a realistic view of what this really looks like. But yeah, I think it's, I think the building looked really too modern for West Annapolis, but I think we're changing the whole look of West Annapolis to go with the MRE look of the current office building. And this will be the second very modern office building. So over time, it's not going to look like West Annapolis anymore. But hey, let's change, unfortunately. Or fortunately, whichever way you look at it. But yeah, I don't have any other comments.
Mr. Bellamy?
I'm in favor of the building. I think, as I said, it's a beautiful looking building, and I think it's well done, and you all have met all the criteria established. So
I'm going to make a motion. Huh?
Mr. Chair, can I just give some advice before the motion, if you don't mind?
What's the?
Okay.
Depends on what the advice is.
Well, the advice is that when a motion is made, and this is just a recommendation from my part, that it references the applicable code sections. So it references the 21-22-080, the site design plan review criteria, and references chapter 2162, the site design standards, and that you are voting that this project meets those specific requirements. And so that's what I'm asking. I'm recommending that
Right.
the motion include.
All right, the motion includes reference to those two code sections, that it meets those requirements with the added following three conditions. One of them is that the terrace and public sidewalk paving all be of one nature, so that it's a seamless experience. That is not, doesn't sound very legalistic, but that the public sidewalk and private terrace paving materials be not plain concrete and be seamless, okay? It should give you plenty of latitude there to make it The other is that in terms of the planting and the soil volume and silvacells, I think you've made a case that silvacells may not be necessary. I'm going to perhaps change the condition so that it'll be up to the city forester to determine whether the soil structure, volume, and so forth is adequate. And it'll be up to you to determine whether it's needs the underground structure that those cells provide to the upper pavement. So we can change that condition so that it's as approved or as required by the city forester, okay? The third condition that I'm proposing is that on the corner is that in consultation with the city forester, that you determine whether either a tree or a major shrub that will provide some shade in the future couldn't be planted in the corner so that it doesn't obstruct sight lines.
And all of the conditions in the staff report as well.
Yeah, but obviously all of the conditions in the staff report. I want to make a comment about, before I release this for a vote, I want to make a comment about neighborhood compatibility in architecture. The reason that it's compatible with the neighborhood architecture is because MRE has built the same thing in various iterations, okay? You know, all along that section of West Annapolis, it's pretty much the same thing. So now it's compatible with what they've already built. So where are we? You know, I'm cautioning, this is, you know, West Annapolis is in many ways the sort of the soul, it's one of the chambers of the heart of Annapolis, you know, downtown, blah, blah. I don't need to take that metaphor too far. Any further projects, I heartily, deeply, strongly recommend that you do work sessions. They save you money, they save you time, and they save the anguish of what happens here. Okay? They're not expensive. You don't need to do, you just need a site plan. That's what you need. And it helps to get the input from people before you proceed with all of this expense. And with all of the properties that MRE is acquiring in West Annapolis, it's in your hands, man. So be respectful of what the community needs, what the community thinks, what the community needs in the future. What they need over there is a park. They need a small park, a street-side park, a little park where mothers and their tots and older people can sit on a bench. There's a few trees, there's some grass. It's nothing major, but if you put a park in it, one of those corners, man, the value of everything that you own around there would just skyrocket. Having said that, do I have a second?
All right, let me just make clear for the record that the chair's comments after we said that the conditions in the staff report are part of the motion. Everything after that was discussion. All right, I just want to make it clear for the record.
Oratory.
Okay.
Before I vote, could someone explain what a silver cell is to me?
All right, let's try to
We need a
finish with the
second.
motion.
We need a second for the motion.
We need a second, and then we can have some
Yeah,
discussion.
the three conditions.
Sorry.
Okay.
We're going to separate out the conditions.
Do you need to?
Well, I think so I'm in favor of some and not in favor of one.
Okay.
All right, we'll separate them out. Condition number one is that the terrace and sidewalk paving be the same so that it's a seamless experience, okay?
Yep.
All right. Do I have a second to that motion
Second.
and condition? Okay, any further discussion on that? All in favor, say aye.
Well, a question,
Aye.
I have a question for discussion on that. So say it was going to be sort of stamped concrete or something like that. The city's okay with the sidewalk being something different than just the standard concrete thing? Like if they wanted to put a design in the concrete, the city's not going to object to that being on the main sidewalk? Well, I don't want to put a condition in there that
Okay.
gets the city upset at them. I mean,
Good
that's
question.
not fair.
That's something that Public Works would have to answer. I know that they would not approve brick. That I do know. They don't want any more brick sidewalks. They have said that, except for in the historic district.
Yeah.
If there's a pattern, that's not, I don't know that answer.
All right. Subject to the approval of Public Works.
That's fair.
Okay. Any other questions? All right. Did I get a second on
Second.
that motion to condition number 1? Okay. Any other discussion? Calling for a vote. All in favor of that, say aye.
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 All right. Second one had to do with changing the requirement of silva cells and leaving it to the decision of the city forester as to whether there's adequate soil volume and quality.
Yep.
Okay?
Second.
Okay.
Do I have a second to that condition number
Second.
2? Okay,
Second.
any questions?
Yeah, what is that? What is a silver cell?
Okay, good, quick. That you never got an answer to. A silva cell is, we should let,
It's an underground box, basically, that allows for voided space underneath the sidewalk. It's a plastic structure that goes beneath the sidewalk or beneath a paved surface that allows for air and soil beneath that surface so that roots can generate further without disrupting the sidewalk above, basically.
Okay.
It's a stabilized load-bearing system that can support the sidewalk without letting roots come up above.
Okay.
and allows roots to go sideways and even interpenetrate from adjacent trees.
Sure.
And they just grow much more better, frankly. Okay.
Got it.
They,
Thank
they
you.
are, I mean, legitimately very good. And I think if we put it in the hands of the city arborist, I think that's a great compromise.
Okay, I'm calling for a vote on condition number 2.
Aye.
Second.
Aye.
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 Aye, passes unanimously. The last one is that a corner street tree or shrub that does not obstruct visibility be, I guess, considered is the only thing I can say, as I can't mandate it at this point.
Well, it's
Hey, Bob,
considered.
could we just could we leave it up to Brian Adams if he can choose a tree that's not going to have an obstructive element to it? Again, leave it to our city arborist.
Yes. Fine with me. That, the condition would be that a street tree or shrub as approved by the city arborist be planted in the corner and so as not to obstruct necessary visibility. And if he says it can't be done, it can't be done. That's fine. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
All right. Do I have a second for that motion? Condition number 3.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion,
So
questions?
that's the one where there's too many intersections in the city that I cannot see around. And that tells me that there's not a good track record on this being looked at for view lines. I don't know if it's maybe because my car doesn't sit up as high as other people's cars. I don't know, but I really appreciate coming up to an intersection and not having anything in the way for me to be able to clearly see, so I'm not hitting anyone or potentially hitting someone. So this is the one where I like the plan. I think it's fine, and I don't want obstructions making an intersection more dangerous.
I think
So
that-
I would say, Quentin, oh, sorry. I would say, Quentin, that probably the planter is going to be more obstructive to your view line than a tree that has the roots that go all the way down, will be flush with the sidewalk area and then trimmed so that there's no branches or any greenery that will be in your eyesight up to, let's just say, 8 feet tall. You're going to have much more view shed, unimpeded view shed than you will with a planter box on that corner. But I
Okay.
think leaving it up to our planning and zoning specialist, our arborist, makes sense. I think we should just maybe respect his opinion.
Yeah, and I'm okay with respecting a professional coming in and looking, but I would want the language to say that rather than to try to encourage, I guess, one way or another, rather than just say that, upon the review of a professional arborist, that they ensure that the sight lines do not
Right.
restrict any kind of site.
Yeah,
That's what I said. That's what I said.
our professional
As
arborist,
approved
Brian
by,
Adams.
And also so that it
Yeah.
doesn't obstruct the necessary, the required site.
Yeah, like I said, I waffle on this one just because only because I know that I come up to intersections that have been approved and say I can't see.
Okay.
So, yeah.
I'm with you on that one because time and time again, I come out and exit from maybe a drive-through fast food restaurant and a hedge, not a tree.
Yep.
But a hedge
Not
blocks
a, yeah, that's a hedge.
blocks my vision,
So,
trying to exit, so.
All right, I'm calling
That's
for
what
a
we're
vote.
saying.
I'm
I just
calling
want to
for a
make one
vote.
more.
I'm calling for a vote. All in favor of this condition number 3, say aye. Aye.
abstain.
That's 3. All in nay is 2. Okay?
I'm sorry, what was it?
3-2. In favor.
Did you say
I'm
abstain?
I'm abstaining.
Okay,
Oh, you're abstaining.
I'm abstaining.
Okay.
I'm not going to vote one way or another.
all right. got it.
Okay. All right. So there you have your approval, Mr. Hyatt, Mr. Wilson, and Mr. Rumpke.
Thank you, we appreciate it. We look forward to bringing a nice new building to West Annapolis.
Danish style, by the way. It's Danish, right? It's Danish, according to the resume of Mr. Fishback.
But
You who
Bob,
spent
also
time in
don't,
Copenhagen. Yeah, it's Danish. That's what you were saying. It's Danish.
Danish.
But Bob, don't say that they've
All right.
done everything like that building.
We have a couple of minutes. We're going to do a work session. Let me explain a little bit about work sessions. First of all, this work session works, well. All right, gentlemen, take your discussions out, please.
Let me know when you start. I've got to bring Diane and Alex back on.
Okay, well, then let's go down. Let me finish this session of the Planning Commission. There's nothing further on our agenda unless anybody has any business to bring up. Okay? In that case, I will entertain a motion to adjourn, and we'll go down into a work session. And I'll explain that.
So moved. Motion to adjourn.
Okay, seconded? Motion, second?
Second.
Mr. Brick, okay. All in, any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right. Listen, I want you to be careful. I want you to be careful about this, about these sections. It's very important that we not vote on each of these factors. You just vote that each one.
I'm not bound by the truth?
You what?
You're not bound by the truth?
No. You never are.
That's harsh. That's harsh.
Okay, we're ready to roll?
And we're ready to roll.
Did you give one of these to?
Okay, but they're still on. Okay, so they're still on, both their cameras are off, so you can, and they can see what Andrew's presenting up there?
Yes. Okay, let me just kind of describe what a work session is, just quickly, especially. And this is something. Explain what a work session is. Something I instituted some years ago to give applicants with their proposals an opportunity to come and sort of show us what they're thinking of without sinking a lot of money into it and getting our feedback on things. And it's smart developers will do it. You know, they'll think about it. They'll get some sense of what the problems are going to be and what the proposals are and suggestions and ideas. And so many of them have, come out and have been adopted. If there's public here, they're certainly invited to watch and to listen. And if there's a lot of people and a lot of tension about it all, I'll ask them to write their questions down and then hand them up, and then I or somebody will read the questions for them so that we don't get into a repartee back and forth with the public on this, because it really should be an opportunity more for us and for the applicants. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Okay, what do we got?
All right, let me just start. First of all, I want to introduce John Kemp, Jack
How do you do?
Kemp, and Nathan
How do you
Hall.
do? And what?
Nathan Hall.
Hall, yep. And I want to remind everybody that this is a hypothetical. This is the type of work session that we want to start talking about the particular use and the need. And I just want to say that I've been working on this project for a long time. This is the Annapolis Seafood property at the corner of Forest Drive and Tyler Avenue. It's been sitting empty for 5+ years. It's become an eyesore, and it's been a source of conversation with the prior administration. I had conversations with the former alderman, and one of the themes that we had discussed over the years is that this is a bit of a food desert. This area that we're in doesn't lend itself to good food choices. There's just not, for pedestrians, for people that are on bike or walking, and it's a problem, and it's a big problem. And the site, we can't put a Safeway on this site because it's not large enough. So what we have in mind here is to fulfill the terms and requirements spelled out in the comprehensive plan, which recite the fact that there's a need for a mix of uses, recite the fact that there is a need for EV technology, electric vehicle charging, and that there's a statement, I'm looking to portions of the comp plan that say that in this region, there's low vehicle access, poor proximity to supermarkets, and residents are suffering as a result. And here we are tonight with a concept to offer healthy foods to residents in something that can't quite be a full-service 40 or 50,000 square foot supermarket because of the size, but we're talking about a respectable size, and we're able to offer products that are very much needed and described in the comprehensive plan. There's the Tyler Avenue plan that the City Council adopted. The idea is to have more density, more residential housing across the street, across Forest Drive, and up and down Tyler Avenue. And this use is needed. This use is in demand. So with that, what I'd like to do is unveil, and this is a concept that our clients are looking to roll out. It's something new. There's several locations, and they may speak to the other locations, but this is one of the locations that they think this concept can succeed. So, John, would you like to just say a couple words about the thinking that is behind this?
Sure.
Oh, yeah, let me give you the mic, sorry.
Yeah, so you'll see the name Royal Farms on there. So actually, the name of the company is Two Farms, and we do operate the Royal Farms convenience store chain. We also operate Cloverland, Green Spring Dairies, and actually Enfield Realty. So under that umbrella, we're proposing a new concept called ROFO Fresh Market, and that is a different concept than we had before. And the genesis of that was actually this location and actually looking at this location and providing something totally different. And so what we're proposing here is something that is relevant today, healthier, clean foods, sort of a mission I personally have been on for the last 2 years. And it's sort of on trend, and it's... Yeah, it's something that's on trend, and whereby we would provide a small market concept with clean, fresh foods, as well as the typical foods found in a typical food store. So we can get into that a little later. We've changed the architect again. We've created a logo, ROFO Fresh Market, and the like, and in the next 10 or so minutes, we can explain the concept and how it works. So we worked with this company to actually help develop the concept, actually. So
Yeah, it's been a... It's, again, it's a nice opportunity. When we started to talk with our friends from the ownership group, a lot of things are in play right now. There's a lot of momentum around people getting a better understanding of processed food and how bad it is for you. And it goes hand in hand with what's happening in this community, where access to anything but bad choices doesn't exist unless you have a car. And so, and what the ownership group has explained to us is that they have a lot of locations, and they think that this shift towards different choices, or providing different choices for people, is something that's going to be a long-term thing. And we're trying to figure out how to put that in place in the location, not only in this location, but maybe feed it back into the other ones. So they came to Hammond Wilson, and we talked about, well, what can we do to start to change the character and address those needs. So that's part of the genesis for this, this new approach to things. And as we dive into the plans, we all know the property. It's kind of interesting. In its iteration as Annapolis Seafood, it did provide, some better choices than are available today. And of course, the bakery was there at one point, but that's long gone. So what we're looking at now is trying to change, kind of what, like you think of Royal Farms. That's one thing. Fresh Market is kind of another iteration, and it's more like a, higher end, like Fresh Foods would be, or Whole Foods, something like that. So how do you change that? Well, the architecture is different to start, right? The buildings look different. They don't look like 10 other stores. They look a little bit more polished in the way they're put together. They're still constructive looking. They look like pieces of a build that are a little bit raw. But what you have in the site plan, if you look at the concept site plan, we provide a lot more open space around the building. It's not just about parking lot. It addresses Forest Drive. It addresses Tyler Avenue, provides some green space and some open area there. And through discussions with staff, we thought that, if we provided some space along Forest Drive that was a little deeper, there could be weekend events there. There could be markets that set up there, because we don't care who sells the food so much. I mean, we do, but we could have open events there on weekends, markets, that type of thing, which would foster, a different type of interaction between some of the people who we're hoping will be there and what they consume. Outdoor dining space along the street face, and then providing, a little bit more, green area outside. So you can start to link nature and your existence a little bit. If we go to the next page, what we're trying to do is understand a way to we're going to have to provide many of the offerings you would consider to be ones you'd find today, but also provide an area where we can offer fresh fruits and vegetables, some prepared foods that are better choices, and those types of things. So we divided the plan up a little bit into areas that's more like grocery, and then also areas for gathering. So not only can you get product there, but you can consume it and interact with people there. And you see that in the red area where the seating is a little different. There are a few stores like that now that we have that do that, but this is intended to be, in a smaller footprint, because usually that only shows in the larger stores. So we go to the next page, you can see so here you can see these are kind of the prototypes that we were looking at. You got Spinks here and other options, All Town Fresh. These are more kind of smaller market type concepts that we looked to for guidance as to how this might go together. Now, one of the things is, okay, it's a great idea, but how do you do it? And so this is one group that we've talked to, but there are many where, because people are starting to think this way, they're actually operating within the store as a vendor, if you will. So they'll come in and stock product for us and take product away and make sure that everything's kind of taken care of and looks the way it should, and there's a consistency. So as the owners decide to expand this into other areas, they can count on a consistency that I think is part of their brand. Everything should be consistent. So we think we can get that to work. And again, we're building a concept, so this is how we might do it. But then we get into the architecture. And so what we're trying to do here is just create a different feeling to this space. There's a lot more green around the outside, so your footprint is big enough to succeed, but it has to be on a parcel that can provide some green space around the building, so it feels like a different experience than many other stores. Go to the next page here, you can see another view of it. It's a little sleeker, it's a little bit crisper, a little bit more contemporary, I'll say. And then, of course, we're going to have these canopies for the automobiles. And so what we've tried to do is make those as thin as possible so that they aren't as visible. So we've gone to the most streamlined canopy assemblies that we can, kept them low, and got solar panels on the roof of those. A lot of green around them again. And then on our next slide here, again, these are just to give you a sense of what this is going to look like. Much more open. You see a lot of stores where it's a lot of concrete block that's just painted, and this is intended to be visible and look through, so much more glass heavy. It takes the ability to put racks against the walls away, but we think we've accommodated that in the plan decisions we've made. And then here's where we're headed inside. And so if you look at what we got there, it feels more, there's not rows and rows of product. It's open area, it's tables with with fresh produce on them. There's an opportunity to buy prepared foods at a counter. It's open on all four sides. It doesn't feel like there's a front and a back. And then the last one here starts to give you a general sense of, another view inside. And so what are we doing here? Well, I think what we're trying to do is recognize that, for the project to be successful, we've got to provide certain things. I think I got to provide EV charging. I got to provide opportunities to purchase fuel, and then we've got to provide things the community needs, like a way to solve the food desert problem. And so we think this is a nice mix that allows us to provide viability for the owner with some of the components, an opportunity for the neighborhood to take advantage of this location to help meet a need they have. And so mirroring those pieces together, like, as I said, the interesting thing to me is I hope the world looks a little more like this as we move forward. I hope people start to make better choices. And I think this is a venue for us to test it over there and to see if we can carry it forward. We don't know if this is going to work or not, but we think it really could. So we may see a bunch of these in the future. So
What if it doesn't work? Becomes a Royal Farms and fried chicken?
Well, that's always a possibility. That's always a possibility. I think that's where the devil is in the details. It's a great question. Like, what's the risk that everyone's willing to take, and what's the obligation that everyone's willing to take to create this, right? So I think that's a great way to start the discussion. Like, how do you reconcile that? Because I could tell you this and none of it could happen, right? And
If I might interject, we've seen a demand for cleaner, healthier foods, and that demand is real. And they mentioned All Town Fresh in here, and also Spinks, and we know those people. And All Town Fresh is owned by Global, and they're up in the New England area. The Spinks Market is down in Greenville, North Carolina, and they're both very successful. So we know the concept has legs.
Successful in black areas?
I don't know, Greenville has black areas, yes.
Yeah, I know, but.
Right.
May I ask another question about that too?
Pardon?
Do these other concepts include fuel?
All Town Fresh includes fuel, yes. The Spinks Market has no parking and is located in the downtown area. But there's a lot of pedestrian traffic and walking there.
There's a lot of what? Professional traffic?
It's in the downtown area, so it doesn't have
Greenville,
parking.
South Carolina?
Yes, sir.
And who does it draw from?
The downtown.
Office workers, that kind of thing?
There's residents, so it's sort of mixed use. Greenville's sort of gone through a renaissance, and so there's shops, restaurants,
So
condos, mixed use.
So this Spinks market is like a small European market?
Kind of, yeah.
The small grocery stores that are all over cities in Europe. They're tucked into these urban environments. They're not 40,000 square feet. They're much smaller, but they do what needs to be done, right?
Yes.
Yeah, this one is not in our packet.
All right.
Here, I have a copy of that.
I think your key is going to be if you're offering healthy, fresh food, as you said, and not fast processed food, unhealthy food. That's going to be key. I think that the attractive aspect of this proposal is the inside and outside seating, where people can sit and relax and eat and have a sandwich or and a drink and so forth. And you mentioned that you're going to offer gas
Yes,
plus EV charging, right?
that's correct.
But the healthy food concept, I think, is the key, in my opinion. I've been living in Annapolis for 6 years, and I'm constantly looking for a place I can go to get something relatively quick, not a restaurant, not a supermarket, but something quick, but healthy. And I have a question for you regarding the name. Is it going to be Rural Farm or something else?
Rural Fresh Market. Here's the logo right here.
Okay, that's helpful, because if I were to see Rural Farms, I would probably just keep going past it, because going back to Bob's comment, I don't want fried chicken.
It's a new concept.
New concept.
New concept.
Okay, so that the marketing of that would be a help get new customers who would otherwise not go into a Rural Farm to get something to eat, because they know the food is.
I mean, that's the idea, is
Yeah.
to like change the character away from, what we know works to something that we think might work.
I think that would be very important.
And to Bob's point, we made some architectural moves on the site plan that are different than Royal Farm. We put the market up front, help the success of it. We opened it up to allow transparency into the market, so. So I said we made some architectural moves that allow us to focus on the market, to make it more successful, and put that in the primary spot by opening up the corner, allowing more glass to see into it, and allowing some interaction with the community space and outdoor seating to really activate that and make it an accessible, welcoming place that the community wants to go to for the local pedestrians and people passing by all the way up and down Forest Drive.
So can I just jump in here? I just can't get by the fact that it's a gas station. I know it doesn't look like a gas station, but it's a gas station. And, I would love for this market concept to succeed, but if it doesn't, we're gonna be stuck with another gas station for another 20 years. And I can't get by that. Lose the gas pumps, maybe leave the EV chargers.
But why
lose
would we
the
do
gas
that?
pumps and try to make the market work. I think the concept, as you've described, is a little schizophrenic, because you talk about wanting it to be a neighborhood place where people can walk to, blah, 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 for healthy stuff, and that's all great. But it's really going to be for people leaving town, going outbound Forest Drive in the morning, we've got to get gas and a cup of coffee. And I can't get by that. And, it's nice looking, and but it's, sorry to be so rude about it, but it's still it's lipstick on a pig. If the market concept doesn't succeed, it's gonna revert to just a plain old gas station.
How important in your income?
So I don't know what else there is to say, but
Following up on this comment, how important in your income projections is it to include income from gas and EV charging?
So the gasoline is the here and now. We're not getting rid of gasoline anytime soon. EV is the future. It's stalled. We have forged relationships with 6 or 5 EV companies, and we have been adding EVs to our locations. There is some demand there now, but it's not as like fuel, so there is a transition, and we're proposing 10 to 15 EV charging stations at this location. Let's try to serve both customers as the one grows.
I'm going back to the suggestion about just making it a food market for healthy food, period, and a place for to relax and socialize, versus adding the
Any type of fuel.
automobile component to it.
Right. Well, the concept as planned does have automobile use.
I mean, I think it becomes much, much less viable for this applicant to move forward without the fuel component of the application. It just doesn't work for this client.
Now, it does, the fuel.
I think it's the deal with the devil that I don't think we should do.
The fuel concept doesn't bother me, that you have filling stations and EV chargers on site, but I just wondered how important it was to your projected revenues. You just answered the question.
It's a significant component
Yeah,
of it.
thank you.
Yeah.
In the spirit of this being a working session, I'll tell you some of the things I like and some of the things that I have a hard time with. And so first, I do like all that you have going on here in terms of the bioremediation. I like the layout. I like the plan for the most part. I do want to point out Forest Drive is, I believe, one of the most dangerous streets in the state of Maryland. And so the idea of people walking in this area as it's currently laid out is going to be difficult to see that happening. Tyler Ave is one of the most dangerous streets in the city of Annapolis. So you're on the corner of one of the most dangerous streets in the state and one of the most dangerous streets for car accidents, that is, right? So people speed down Tyler. I know we're working on some plans to reduce and calm traffic with Tyler. Just know that those are years in the making. So you're already putting yourself on a location that is not conducive to people walking to this location. I do love, I think that making a place walkable has to start somewhere. So I applaud you for having that initiative. I just don't know how viable that is in this location right now. I love the idea of a food market, love it. I do think that the food market's probably not in a viable spot. Moving something like this closer to Truxton Park, for example, would work way better. People have a healthier lifestyle. They would want and gravitate towards this. I don't know if I see that happening again off of Tyler Ave and Forest Drive. I don't. So as much as I would want this concept to succeed, I don't know if that's the spot where it will succeed. Just something to think about. I think that you're also surrounded by a lot of gas stations already. So gas stations, you're putting yourself in the most concentrated area of gas stations for the city of Annapolis right there. I think there's one right across the street from there, right? There's a couple up and down the street. There's probably 7 I can think of, 8 that I can think of within a mile up or down from there. So like you're now putting yourself in a lot of competition for gas stations. So it's something that to think about in terms of the viability nature of this. And as Mr. Pline said, I do think that this food market, which I would love to succeed, is very likely in this location going to end up having to transition to probably Royal Farms, and I love Royal Farms. I'm not going to say, I love Royal Farms. I drive a EV, so I like the EV nature of having that. I'm not anti-gas station, but I am anti-gas station where we have like 8 of them already in that area. So just, again, things to think about as a working session that we're trying, things that I think work well, things that I think don't necessarily work well.
Half the property is given over to automobiles and fuel stations. And as a food market, it doesn't seem like it's big enough to really be a food market. You're just talking about some prepackaged sandwiches and things like that. And our experience with trying to combine a little grocery fruits and vegetables downtown in the Market House failed miserably, and now it's used to store brooms and buckets back in that corner. So it needs to be big enough, and yet it's not big enough for a supermarket, but it might be big enough for like a market and a strip center of some sort. But so much of this property is given over to the fuel stations and the parking for the fuel stations and so forth and so on, that there's not enough left to make a viable food market, okay? The other thing is that, that's on my mind is that historically, what the city has always wanted on this spot is multifamily housing. And I think within the foreseeable future, you're going to get a zoning change that allows for mixed use here, in which case you could put a food market on the first floor and have however many units you can provide on a property this size. I just heard a disquisition from you as to whether the one in West Annapolis could handle residential, and this looks larger. But in any case, we've always wanted multifamily residential here. It would be affordable because it's on one busy avenue and one busy street. And thirdly, I like Mr. Pline. I would be really concerned that our best intentions don't fly, and we end up with a convenience store and gas station, and that would be a loss when if we wait a little bit longer, get our stuff done, we can maybe have housing here and across the street at the car repair place. That's a huge property. And then you'd have housing which provides the sort of, I don't know, boundary and gateway into Tyler Avenue. I mean, this is big enough to put housing and still have, recreation. So those are our thoughts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one thing to add to exactly what you said, and I agree with, is that I think if you want this concept to succeed, having a built-in clientele is so important. And so I don't know what the appetite is for making mixed use in that area, but if you want the food market, if you want ROFO to succeed, I think the best thing you do is create a walkable area by having the clientele living right there as well.
One of the comments I've heard before is that it takes scale to build the multifamily.
Yep.
And generally, we, in the real estate division, we do working on some multi-use projects, and generally speaking, we need about 300 units to make it viable.
Well, you've got population around there.
Right. Okay.
You really do have population around there. I mean, not necessarily above it.
Right.
But close by. And it needs to be big enough to actually be a market.
Yeah, so just a couple of points on that. We had done a lot of research on the suppliers of this. One was the Balducci Company out of New York, which is in the fresh, clean food distribution. And we actually had gone through and actually vetted the different companies. And so it's a lot more selection than just a couple sandwiches and gourmet type things. It's about 3-4 pages of fresh, clean foods, a lot of them than we have. And we're also, as a just side point, we have 3 other locations that we're looking to invest in. One's in Montgomery County, another one is in Anne Arundel County, and another one's in Easton. That we're looking at this concept because it doesn't necessarily. So we're committed to it.
Good.
Yeah.
No,
We like the concept.
We like the
the
idea of small markets.
Yeah, right.
There's an Hispanic market, Chinquapin and Old Forest. Okay? That is incredibly successful. It's a one-story strip center. The Hispanic population way spread out, blocks away, and it's incredibly successful. It's crammed. It's not big. And it's you can't get in there on a Saturday or Sunday. So I think that the concept of a small Europe, and if we can get multifamily housing above it.
Yeah.
So we didn't hear from Mrs. Butler. I wonder if she's still available and wants to offer commentary.
Ms. Butler?
Oh, hi there. I think my colleagues did a good job covering most of the points that I would make. So I'm not going to belabor the point, but I like the idea of addressing the food desert issue there. And I love the idea of a small market. I just think having the fuel as the driver is not what we need there right now. Thank you.
You guys get feedback? You got your feedback? Yeah, okay. Then we did our job, huh?
You did indeed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Spent a lot of paper.
It's the nature of my business, paper. Yeah. Yeah. Well, we appreciate the time and the candor. And as we try and make decisions about these projects, this is, as you said, the work session is critically important. I think it's important also to remember the applicant. Like the applicant, wants to try something new. This seemed like a good location for it. Seems like there's pretty strong pushback on the fuel piece of it. And it's a key component of the offering here. Like my guy's not going to build a market for the sake of a market, because it's not, that's not a business model that leads his company in the direction they're going. They're trying to figure out how to combine fuel sales with this new option. So I'm not sure we'll be back with just a market with this applicant. I just don't see how that works. But I just wanted
You
to.
may be back with a market that's double or triple the size of this and half the fuel.
And that's possible too. A lot of things are
You have to
possible.
kind of think of or you may come back and say, look, if I was allowed to build 3 stories of residences above this, what would it be like? And I don't know if
Agreed.
you would know whether the property can handle it.
Well, it's interesting, Bob, we came to this city months ago with an application that included housing on that parcel. And that applicant walked away because it didn't meet critical mass. It wasn't enough. And 300 units, as my client has said, is, I need 300 keys to make it work. They don't fit here, not even in 5 stories, because I can't park it and I can't get the height.
Yep. I don't think that you should treat fuel as this evil use. The reality is you have 40,000 cars plus a day on Forest Drive.
Mm-hmm.
There's a demand for it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you can have a bifurcated type of a use. I think you can have a food market, and then you can still cater to the traffic that is on the road. And that's the reality. The property's been on the market for over 5 years. The uses that have expressed interest have universally been fast food or convenience stores. This is a different deal. I call it a hybrid, but it's a supermarket scaled down. Well, that's really what it is. I mean, we know we're not the standard supermarket, but there is a crying need for the product in this neighborhood. There is.
Yeah, but what if there isn't? What if there isn't that appetite for such fresh fruits and vegetables and grains that need to be cooked, and people they don't even know how to cook this stuff anymore. And what if frankly, if the black community in Robinwood and Overbrook or whatever the name of that place is, what if they say nah, all I want is the fried chicken, and then it falls into and then all these beautiful glass windows become covered with advertisements, and you end up with just candy bars.
There's a risk. There's a risk, but look what it is today. It's vacant.
And part of the risk is the city of Annapolis is it doesn't work, and we're stuck with it.
Well, but
the risk to him is he loses money and he goes to the next place.
I don't think the argument that anything is better than nothing, or anything is better than what is currently there, that's not going to win.
No, I'm not suggesting that.
Yeah. But again, we totally understand that this doesn't work without the gas.
Right.
We got that. We understand the finances need to pencil out. But I think one of our biggest pushbacks here is that we don't think the food market pencils out so that it is sustainable, and then it does just turn into another one of literally a dozen gas stations that we have on Forest Drive in that area, making it less walkable, making it less compliant with the comp plan. So we understand that this version here is moving somewhat in that direction of that comp plan that we want to see. I mean, it's not entirely, but it's somewhat better. It's better than it is now, right? But I think that a lot of us are looking at it and saying that that food market, that risk is just not likely going to pan out, and then it just turns into something that completely goes antithetical to the concept of the comp plan.
Well, I must be in the minority because I can't think of a place that has fresh quality food in a food market type environment anywhere near. I live off of, I live right near Truxton Park off of Hilltop. In either direction, I can't think of a place. So there's a need for this type of proposal, and
We've actually, the financial paradigm, we've vetted, and we've run it by bankers and the like, and the concept has legs. I'm 95% sure this concept's going to fly. Now, we may not do it, we'll probably not do it here, but you're going to see this concept in Gaithersburg and possibly another Anne Arundel County location and the like. So, and it's not just a modicum of fresh, clean foods. We've done a lot of, Sun's done a lot of work, and with the companies that supply these, it's a totally new supplier. They are extremely excited about this concept, and they believe it's the future, and we do too. So, I mean, we're a little more confident than that this might not work. We wouldn't be investing $10 to $15 million in each one in the 4 that we have signaled out to be planned. So I just want to make that point. We do think it has legs, and you know, to explain the concept a little further, it is a lot of clean, healthy foods, along with some of the traditional items. So people would have choice, and I just want to make that point. But I hear you loud and clear, so in respect.
And no, we all want healthier food options. Again, as Bob mentioned, we've had them in other areas where the population is generally more health conscious, and they've not succeeded in this area. We would love to be able to find a spot where they do succeed. I just don't know in a non-walkable area next to 2 very dangerous roads where people are not going to be walking generally to that location. They're going to be driving there. Most of that, and again, if there is interest in that area, we have a lot of places that would sell healthier food options that aren't. I'm hoping you prove us wrong. I would love to be able to see more of that in a similar situation next to these Strodes that are super dangerous and that succeed, and change our minds on that.
how many parking spaces were you planning to have?
Chris, you remember
It's
on there?
approximately, the bulk of them, there are about 15 EV spaces.
Correct, yeah.
15 to 20 EV.
And then,
There are about 15 to 20 EV spaces on there, so.
How many parking spaces total?
approximately 50.
Yeah, about 50 spaces on the property. About 50? Yeah, yeah.
It's a lot.
It is a lot. It is a lot.
It's a,
I mean, let's face it, right? Like, we'd all love the world to need cars less, right? And Annapolis especially, right? Because we think of it as a small town and we'd like it to be walkable. But it isn't yet. It's, you know, it gets better sometimes, but sometimes it doesn't get better. The guys at Royal Farm, they know fuel and they know numbers and they know what the market says and they know car counts on that street and they know that they can sell fuel to enough people to make it viable with what's on that plan. So they don't come to it saying, well, let's maybe make the car part work. They know that works. What they don't know works is this, but we believe it works. That's hence the combination that we came back to you with. I love the idea of looking to the future for that site to say, well, what could it be that would be higher and better for the community? But we know how fast things move here in Annapolis. You know, that could be decades. That's the reality of it, decades.
should happen faster than that.
Well, you got 5 years on an empty lot so far, and I remember...
Well, that's because the zoning has been such a restriction.
Yeah, well, it doesn't change fast. I mean, remember when we did faucets? I mean, that was empty for 10 years. So
still in.
It's just a hard nut, right? And I think we'll see
Things are
cars
just
shift.
happening faster. though.
But we are talking that zoning in like within the next 2 years will be different.
Oh, yeah, we're talking, it's happening faster than it's ever happened before.
Yeah, we're not on the record, are we?
Yes.
I'll buy you dinner wherever you like if it changes in 2 years. How about that?
Well, I understand. I think, think about it and think about what would happen if you cut out half the fuel, and then change sort of the way the site works. The market itself is not very big, and then you add all this sit-down space, and you add the counter space, and the fryers, and the this, and this, and the that. So, it's possible that another iteration,
So that's interesting. That's interesting because that's a different discussion. Like the discussion I was leaving here with 5 minutes ago was a hard no. Like you're never getting this. If the discussion is you got too many pumps and there's fewer pumps and there's a number that works and it might be half of them, that's a discussion I'll have with my client and say, well, let's see. And a larger store, those are things that might carry water. So, but I'd have to know that I love the concept of trying to find middle ground to make something go here, but I need to be confident that, like, you said that, but who else would agree with that as a concept?
I don't know that I'd even agree.
Well, I'm not saying that you were committed to it. That's why we're off the record. We said maybe if you showed me 5 less and you showed me a better market, then maybe I'd be interested. That's I call that hope.
No, you have to,
I mean,
you have to convince me.
Sure. I mean,
Mr. Jakubiec has something to say.
Thank you. Yeah, great discussion so far, and I really appreciate everyone being candid and upfront. And the developers came to see us. We expressed the difficulty in obtaining a special exception approval. I think I might have said it might be 50-50 in terms of getting approval, demonstrating that the standards of the special exception can be met. Of course, a special exception is a permitted use, so they have a legitimate proposal that they could go to the Board of Appeals with as it exists today. So we as a staff sat with them on multiple occasions, and they made a number of substantial changes to the plan, including moving the market, or actually including creating a market to address the needs of the community, including positioning the market at the corner to help establish the streetscape and connect it closer to the sidewalk, and de-emphasizing the gas pumps through architecture and design so that it's integrated into the site. The trees and all blended quite seamlessly. It candidly would be the most attractive gas station we've ever seen in our lifetime. But it is, in fact, still a fuel station in the rear and a market in the front. And what that reflects is the transitional nature of Forest Drive and the fact that we are in the present day very much in a transition. We met with developers, 3 developers with residential concepts on this property. Each one went away after, and we do have the zoning that allows residential development and mixed development through our planned development concept. So that's not an issue. Developers have explored the zoning capacity that's inherent in our zoning ordinance now and said there are fundamental issues with introducing housing in the here and now at this point in this location. So ultimately, and candidly and reluctantly on some level, we began the discussion with the applicants about transitioning their ideas into something that met with the needs of the community, but still addressed what's permitted under the zoning ordinance. They're permitted to submit an application for a special exception for fuels. This is not a convenience store. It's a food market, and that's a positive step in the right direction. And what we don't see on this concept is that in order to make it through the special exception, this applicant will have to make substantial improvements to the quality of the pedestrian environment across Forest Drive. A little crosswalk is not going to cut it. There has to be a substantial connection to the other side of Forest Drive because that's going to be a flow of pedestrians that have to be addressed. You can't meet the standards for special exception without making Forest Drive more walkable. So in terms of transitioning, we say this is in the right direction, and it still provides an asset to the community. It may not be ideal, but we never see an ideal project. We see transition happening over many decades, and that's how this project is. So perhaps the applicant goes back and reassesses the market and considers something larger. The fact is, the fuel actually helps support the market because it brings more people in. So driving home, you might stop and buy bread and fresh pasta or fresh produce on the way home. That's the fuel and the market help mitigate the risks associated with the marketplace. So there's a lot to work with here, and they even identified sites for public art, because part of our initiative with the Public Arts Commission is to establish public art in all of our corridors, not just in downtown, but everywhere. So perhaps the applicant will leave this meeting with some guidance from you or some concerns, and come back with concepts that can build on what you're talking about. But we would ask you to continue digging a little deeper and on all parties to see if something is possible with developing this site. And that's all I'm going to say about that. But my counterparts here, Kim Burke and Eric Lashinsky, Mike Meekins, and our economic development staff, we've all been engaged in this discussion, trying to bring about a better future for Forest Drive. And we recognize the transitional nature of this endeavor.
So where does that leave us? I ask myself, and the reality of how the commission works is that I need the votes. I need the votes, right? And so I'm not asking you to take a vote, but I'm saying Commissioner Pline does not sound amenable to gas in any way, shape, or form. And if that's a position, that's not going to work. And Commissioner Butler sounds like she's not going to tolerate gas in any way, shape, or form. I'm just trying to understand, because they're not in the room here and I can't ask them, but I'd like to know, is there any latitude in their position that might allow the project to move forward with a reduced number of pumps?
Well, and since you mentioned my name, I'm here listening.
Oh, good, good.
I think the things that Mr. Jakubiec said do go a long way, but we haven't seen that. So anything's possible. I'm always going to try to keep an open mind about, because these are work sessions. I'm not making my mind up about anything. I'm just telling you what I thought or what I saw, and but I think Mr. Jakubiec is on the right track. That if there were suggestions made to really help with that transition, that I'm always keeping an open mind. But just keep in mind that something that defaults down to a gas station, that's no different than really anything else along Forest Drive there that's a gas station. If the market thing doesn't work, that's the thing that's not tenable to me, because there's no other upside. To me, it just as is now, it just seems all like downside. And it doesn't leave us, if it doesn't work, it doesn't leave us with any upside. So, but the things that Mr. Jakubiec mentioned, those are some upside.
Can I ask you a question?
So, something to think about.
If there were a way to ensure that it doesn't transition to a traditional convenience store over time, would gasoline sales be acceptable to you?
If
there was a way to ensure that, I heard, it was mentioned that we'd be doing a deal with the devil because it would transition back to a traditional Royal Farms, right? We developed this concept in earnest and spent a lot of money on this, thinking that it would actually be something that the community would want, right? And I think the concern that was expressed was related to, sorry to cut you off, but the concern that was expressed was related to the fact that it may transition back to a convenience store and gas station that would just be like a traditional Royal Farm. So my question is, if there was a way to ensure that the product mix and whatever's sold in the market actually were to remain a market and it couldn't change from that, would it be acceptable to then have gasoline sales in your mind? Does that make sense?
Actually, I think you're kind of misreading me on that one. Look at the Royal Farms that's on Bay Ridge and 6th Street. It's a popular place. I go in there, get fried chicken every once in a while. I mean, it's not the Royal Farms per se. It's the site design of a gas station. That's the problem. Those gas stations are one thing. They're gas stations. They cannot ever be anything else. And so if the market thing doesn't work, it's gonna be a gas station. And whether it's a Royal Farms or I don't know who knows what it could be, but it's still gonna be a gas station. So I'm really kind of stuck on the gas part of that, because gas stations are inherently things that people they're utilities that people use, abuse, and get the hell out of there, and they get their gas and they leave. And they're places that are just not loved. And I know you have these great renderings of people loving that market and sitting around there, but I'm a little dubious about that, because gas stations are just not places that you love. I mean, sorry, I go to gas stations as much as anybody else, but they're just not places that you love and hang out. And so that's kind of where I'm stuck on. And, if there were no other gas stations around in the area, maybe it would be worth the utility. But Quentin says, there's tons of other gas stations on Forest Drive. So, but, I never say never, but that's my concern.
I never say never either.
Yeah.
Go. Yeah, Diane.
Yes, I'd like to remain open-minded as well, and I appreciate some of the comments that Director Jakubiak just made. So I need to state that, but I also need to state that I agree with Quentin that these are two dangerous. One's a Strode and one's just a very dangerous street. And I don't see people sitting outside along Forest Drive to socialize and have coffee. I would love that to be the case, but until there's some major changes, that's just not what I envision happening there. But it's not to say that can't eventually happen, that we have a really great market like Belducci's combined with a small place to stop and get fuel. But I just see this, it's just not that concept right now.
In half and increase the market by double, and put your outdoor seating in the back, so you're not put the outdoor seating in the back so that you're not faced with Forest Drive traffic. It's not pleasant to be out there. So those are, if you want hope, there's hope.
Yeah, well, so, I mean, again, I appreciate the candor. We're just trying to figure out together, what the next step might look like for us. And I think your comments are very well put, and we're going to take them into consideration. I'd like to just part by offering that change starts somewhere. Forest Drive is a mess. We all know that. That's like the given, right? Yeah. The hope is that, the kids who walk to the high school there every day will eventually be able to walk on sidewalks that feel safe and secure. The hope is that there's going to be a way to control traffic speeds on Forest Drive that allows people to cross safely, that doesn't include an overpass, right? So it doesn't feel like a highway. There are many ways that you can slow the traffic down on Forest Drive, but I think trying to figure out what the development pattern is going to look like there is still a big question mark, and a very hard thing to answer, because half's the county and half's the city. But this was an attempt to kind of here's a spot to jumpstart this and maybe try it. And so your point about maybe my mix isn't right is more encouraging than you're never getting gas there. So I appreciate all of you being honest about it, and we'll talk with our clients about it and then decide next steps and communicate that back to your team and city staff and keep looking at it. So appreciate it.
One final thought. I'm not sure we're looking at the schematics, but I think if you were to have gas, not let it be so close to the market. Like some gas stations where you got the gas pumps, you take a short walk into the convenience store inside the gas station. That is not attractive to me. But if there's some, like on the other side of the building, you got the gas and the people and the market on this side and that sort of thing, I think that would be more attractive.
Just a quick question. In a case like that, where the gas would be maybe here but not here, and downsize possibly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll kind of second that and kind of give you something more tangible, I think, is that, when you see a European style eatery, right, you're not surrounded by cars and traffic and noise and stuff. Then you come over to the United States, and we love to stick a table and chairs right there next to the cars parking and the cars going, 45 miles an hour. And like I said, this is a racetrack on Tyler. It's not an outright no, right? But it is certainly, we're not quite seeing the thing that I think the comp plan lends itself to what we would desire. And so I don't know what the answer is, but we're certainly open to seeing something. And again, we're just giving you our honest feedback in the moment.
I mean, it's super helpful, so thank you. Appreciate it.
Sure. Thank you.
Guys have a great night.
Alrighty, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
See ya.
Bye.
Thank y'all. Thank y'all.
Bye-bye.